Hello and welcome to another episode of the Grow Your Occupancy podcast. I'm Julie Podowitz, CEO and founder, and today I'm super excited to talk to my friend Brooke Saxon-Spencer, who is the Vice President of marketing at Claiborne Senior Living. So welcome, Brooke.
Thank you.
I almost gave you a new title, but I know at your company you mentioned that but sales and marketing are two very different things.
Yes, they're separated at Claiborne, so I have the luxury of focusing in on just the one.
On your area of expertise.
That's right.
Yeah, tell us just a little bit about Claiborne.
So Claiborne is a senior living management company that is located in Mississippi, and currently we own and manage a portfolio of 11 communities with several more in the works. So we're IL, AL, memory care, kind of got the whole mix going on there.
That sounds great. But you do not live in Mississippi.
I do not. I live in the Los Angeles area.
Ooh, okay. So, I guess the world of senior living,
yeah,
many, a lot of logging, a lot of air and probably drive time logging, but because of our communities are spread out, right?
Yep.
Across the
Definitely.
country or even regionally. So, well, thanks so much for joining. This last time I thought I have got to have you on the podcast, Brooke, because last time we spoke, you mentioned something to me and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to really need to have you on because you said something that's slightly shocking and surely on the cutting edge of the conversation. So Brooke mentioned to me that she is doing away with all print. Tell me if I'm right, all printed marketing material.
Yeah.
Doing away with all printed marketing material.
Yeah, we are.
Is that brochures, rate sheets?
Yes. So we have business cards, but even those we're pushing towards virtual, like with QR codes and such.
Okay.
But we have made the decision to eliminate the paper and really focus on the website and generating, more excitement and more content and just, drive our audience there instead of handing them things that we know will most likely end up in the trash.
How many move-ins I wish we had a poll, this is being recorded, but how many move-ins have occurred because we handed somebody a brochure either at the beginning when they walked in and we gave it to them, or they called and we mailed it to them. And then they said, oh my gosh, I read your brochure. I'm coming over to give you a deposit. I can't wait. It's happened to me thousands of times.
Oh, I'm sure.
Exactly.
It's a crutch. We've noticed that tour, this is where the sales marketing piece overlaps a bit, but from a sales perspective, a lot of those marketing pieces end up being kind of a crutch instead of digging down and doing your discovery and, really getting to know your customer and what their specific needs are. They come into your building and we show them around, probably have a tour path, right, that we show everyone. And then we get back to the front door and we give them this brochure that's probably got 20 plus inserts in it with every floor plan for every level of care.
Yeah.
Pricing for every floor, the whole gamut, and, probably a few pieces apply to this person if they want to sort through it, but we just hand it to them and, give us a call if you have questions.
Right. Because we don't want to be pushy.
Exactly.
Don't want to be pushy. So I have to admit that since you told me this, without using your name or your company name, I've been doing a bit of speaking and a couple of conferences actually. And I mentioned this, I said, one of my colleagues, I could say, and there was like a hush that went over the room, right? Like, so I'm going to guess, because I'm right there with you. I've talked, and I'm nothing against beautiful pieces and all of the wonderful designers that, work so hard in putting all these things together. But that you mentioned the word crutch. I feel like that's it. Gives you a false sense of security.
Mm-hmm.
Here, I'm going to give you this brochure. It's beautiful. It's got, lots of pockets and a lot of truncated, and we stick stuff in there with every good intention, right? But I think, I can't remember when it was. It's probably a handful of years ago, so probably costs more than this. But there was a study done. Time, labor, materials, everything is about $30.
Which is crazy. And then you think about how many times your rates, I mean, at least now in the senior living world that we're in, we don't have annual rate changes. We have they're fluctuating throughout the year. We have sometimes they're quarterly. And then how do you know you're using the most recent one? And then you have upset customers because you're handing them the old rates, but you can't remember when the new rates came out. And besides the fact that then, you have papers everywhere, right? And you have, like you said, that additional cost, but then you have the additional waste, and all for, again, what is the true purpose of giving someone that information, and is there another way that we can deliver it that would meet the need and, have not only meet the need, but then perhaps grow and develop their journey into a new call to action, right? Our initial website landing, we want them to come to the community. Well, once they've done that, can we redesign their experience? And once they come on to our site after that, can we give them a different way to experience us that will get them to deposit or schedule an evaluation? So I think that, with all of the different technology and, AI has been the hot topic of late, but, even before, you launch into that discussion, there's so many capabilities out there to really personalize the user experience. And the difficulty is it's time intensive, and it takes us a moment to take a pause in what we're currently doing, right? Because we've always done it this way, and take that pause and reset and really decide okay, what is essential? And if someone is coming into the community, that's a big step. So instead of giving them a folder of everything that they already probably saw on our website, what is additional value that we can provide them with, if anything, in hand? And what are we using that opportunity for? Are we truly using that opportunity to get to know the prospect, or are we just data dumping back? And I sense that, and I'm guilty myself, it's way easier to data dump when somebody comes to your building, right? Mm-hmm. But for us to really think about the discovery process more in depth and utilize that tour time as an opportunity to delve in instead of data dumping.
You mentioned the sales funnel, and at the top of the funnel, find your funnel, step in and go. Yep. But you make a good point. Someone's in your community. We just did a webinar this about you can keep sales personal in a digital world, right? So in the digital, when they find you, however they find you, SEO, SEM, Googling, whatever, they step in, they're looking on your website, etc., reading some things or not, or engaging in some of your content. They may have gone from I've got problems, and that silent search, maybe they've gone from a 0 or a 1 to maybe a 2 or 3, maybe even a 4, depending on the content. So when by the time they call or engage or request a tour, they are definitely not going to hand you a check. When we say sales qualified, doesn't mean move-in qualified. Right. It means that they want to. So they're maybe in the middle of the funnel. Yep. Giving them a brochure, if you think about it, takes them back to the top. Right. So I mean, you want to give okay, so you got that information, or what was discovered, what was it that prompted and all of that. Then now what? So
that's what I'm most excited about with this opportunity is, though I said we're eliminating all paper collateral, we are developing a different piece, and it will most likely be paper, but it's reduced to one small, it's a value proposition essentially. And we're using it as, it's almost a discovery tool for our sales team, but it'll allow them to quote the pricing for specific units that they've determined that this individual is interested in, instead of giving them a full price sheet. And it will hone in on what are the 3 things that we think are going to be most impactful for them about our services and amenities. So whether that's on-site therapy, whether it's the concierge, and we can check those boxes, but then on that piece that they can hand them this rack card size piece and it'll have a QR code on it that will initially, we're doing this in phases, but initially this will take those people who have toured to a specific landing page, not our initial homepage on our website, to a landing page that then would provide some additional information that we don't just keep on the website. Like, you don't put on our websites, we don't have like a link to our activity calendar or sample menus. You have to dig a little bit more to get to that kind of thing.
Okay.
So we're trying to, like, again, like you said, phase it so that, you know, once you come in the building, what else would you need to know to get you to the next call to action? Like to get to your, you know, and it could be how to pay for senior living. Maybe we need to provide content on how people actually afford this. Maybe it's like how, you know, who qualifies for assisted living, or how do I know if it's appropriate, right? What do we do all day? What's a day in the life of like look like? And, you know, are there case studies we can share about the benefits of senior living? At some point, the next phase for us in this process is to take that landing page. Phase 2 is going to be to make an AL, IL, and memory care specific landing page. And then from there, we're actually going to be able to take this whole value proposition, and every lead will have their own QR code, and it will take them to a personalized landing page where it will customize based on a couple of inputs from the sales team. It will customize what they see when they get there. And, you know, all connected with the CRM. So it's a phased approach because, as you know, the sales teams are already freaking out because they're like, you're taking my folders and my trifolds, and what do I use to do outreach? And we're saying, well, you have to think about it now, right? Like you actually have to think about the person, and it helps. I really do think that with outreach, with fairs, with tours, with whatever, like, you really think about it, and what are we using all that for? Like, we honestly use it half the time as just something to hand people because we're uncomfortable starting a discussion or a conversation about why we're actually there or what we're actually doing. So I'm really excited about where we're headed. Like I said, it's phased, and I have gotten some really interesting reactions from fellow sales and marketing individuals in senior living who have said, you know, well, good luck with that. And thanks for taking one for the team. We'll see how it works for you. But I think, you know, that's one of the advantages of the company that Claiborne is, and that we are still small enough and agile enough that we can make pivots if necessary. We haven't felt the need since we eliminated this like 3-4 months ago. We haven't felt the need to pivot yet. But we are still in that, you know, and again, having the roles separated allows me to have that time to really make sure that there's no gaps. We're still filling the gaps, but we're doing it very thoughtfully.
No, I think you make so many good points. And if, you know, think back, and I know you've been in senior living with 20 some years, right? Okay. Well, do you remember the time where I think maybe I even said, nobody is going to look for senior living online? Like I remember when I first started at a family owned, and it was one kind of a static, you know, where you went on and
you didn't do any.
Okay. Well, I mean,
ugly too, I'm sure, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. And so, you know, and the purpose of brochures, the purpose of all that was to relay information in that world, right? And as there's still, I'm taking notes when you're talking, right? So there's, you know, we still use paper, and I, you know, write a lot. And
you and me both.
Or maybe not. But so what is we're really at this, you know, this crossroads, which probably could have been a little bit before, but thanks to you, you're trailblazing this, that look, nothing wrong with them, but, you know, unless you would provide me data around, look, this community uses 400 brochures and they have 100% occupancy with full market rate.
Yeah.
And this one does, right? So, you know, I think it's really just getting that buy-in around, think about, maybe you're not, you know, haven't done this long enough where we didn't have a CRM, you know, do we need CRM really? Like, is that going to
I'm with you.
Right. So, you know, just in life, just in every, you know, and everything that, you know, kind of, and then look, some things don't work. And you know, drive down the road, you know, and I mean, if it's really scary and dangerous, maybe not, but just drive down it and see what happens. And then, like you said, if you really see the need, But I'm sure you've heard this too, but I can't do outreach because I don't have a business card. Ask me how many times I've gone to conferences and I forgot. Like, oh, I don't think I have a business card, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's nice. And I definitely take mine and, follow up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think if we don't have the crutch or we don't have it, then will we be more open-minded? And I think it's just keeping an open mind. And it also sounds too that I like where you're going with sitting down with the prospect, obviously getting to know them. And then maybe if they do want a physical takeaway, it says, okay, these are some of your points, or these are some of the things that you like, or these are some of the reasons. And then here's a couple things to consider, or maybe your next step is, or something to think about, do or decide, boom, right there.
And on that value proposition, it's funny you mentioned that is an actual section for, and again, we're trying to guide the sales team as well as the prospect or their adult child, right? But there is a little section that we included at the bottom that says next steps, wellness evaluation, reservation agreement, and then there's a spot where you can, but we want, that is the biggest thing that we want our sales teams to do, right? Is don't let that person out of the building without an agreed upon next step. Sales 101, right? Always have an agreed upon next step so that when they call you, or when you call them, they actually answer the phone, because now they feel obligated because they told you it was okay if you called them Tuesday at 3. But we're trying to kind of, I don't want to say force, maybe too strong a word, but we're trying to guide the sales team also through the process in a way that feels organic to them. Because sometimes they complain about, well, I don't want to ask questions in this order, and what if I forget this and whatever. We're like, no. You're just getting to know you're just getting to know your customer, right? You're getting to know your prospect, and you're really trying to, what do they say? Don't show the beauty shop to a bald man. We actually have to think about the person that's in front of us. And so we're really trying to encourage people to again, you were saying personal. It's all about personalization. And I think we can all agree that that's important to us in other areas of our lives. And when people are trying to sell or market to us in that way, that anytime somebody takes that extra step to really get to know me, that makes a huge impact. And, it's, yes, we are trying to generate lots of activity and, whatever, but if you aren't taking the time to do it right, then you're kind of wasting your time. So we're trying to take the crutch away for outreach. Like you said, we're trying to take it away for outreach. There's no need for brochures. Everybody has brochures. Who's going to pick up your brochure at the doctor's office brochure rack that probably is going to get torn down soon, because nobody wants those, right? The referral is going to come from the relationship. It's not going to come because you have your brochure in a rack. So it's the same with the prospects, right? The move in or the next step is going to come because you listened to them and you heard them and you tried to guide them thoughtfully through the process.
So what if you have, and maybe I'm sure you have, but I need a brochure because a lot of people call me and they request a brochure.
My first question back is, because this has come up. Well, a lot of our prospects don't use the internet. And I asked them, well, then how did they get your phone number? We don't have phone books anymore. I don't know about you, but we don't have yellow page advertising expenses anymore, right? Because we're paying for Google pay-per-click and all these other digital expenses. They can't pick up a phone book and call you. They had to go online most likely to get your number, unless by some strange means they got some sort of piece of paper. But again, most likely that's not how they're calling you. We have a very, very extensive call tracking program at Claiborne. And I can tell you that all of our collateral and sales enablement tools, the tracking on those numbers, the incoming calls from them is so minimal. They come from our digital sources. So my feedback would be, well, how did they get our number? And if they really want information, then, we'll try to work something out, but most likely that's going to be so few that it is still not worth it for us to spend all that money on the few people that you're going to send a brochure to. Ask them if they have if it's a prospect that says, I don't use the internet. Well, do you have a son or daughter that we could send a link to, and maybe they could perhaps walk you through? We have everything that you want to know is on our website. So,
another, thought I'm having when you were talking with that, because we can turn around and say, I'd be happy, if people have brochures, happy to send that off to you. Do you mind while I have you on the phone? And then most people forget about the brochure. But another thought, if you all have that kind of discovery / customization / next step tool, we absolutely, we're more than happy to. We do, we have a unique personalized brochure, whatever. Yep. And if you just ask a couple local questions, and I'll make sure
you get that out. Yeah,
exactly right. So
sure, why not?
Right? If that's, and then they might forget all about needing a custom, because you're probably, hopefully, when you do those conditions, there's reasons for people to think, oh, maybe I should come in, because you
absolutely
listen. So maybe it's more
couldn't agree more.
Like our mindset, we need to open up our mindset.
And instead of thinking brochure is this like folder with all this stuff in it, that when they're asking for information or brochure, they're buying into the old language that we've adopted over the years, right?
Well, right.
And we can change, we can change them too, as far as how to even when you look at the paperwork process for moving into senior living at this point, right? We're all going digital. So if you're talking to someone or someone's calling you and they're saying that they don't, they can't pull up your website. Well, then you think like, well, then how are they even going to fill out our paperwork? Like everything is digital. So, most likely that's not going to be the case, right? Like there's going to be some connection there that at some point in the process is going to be able to help them with that journey online or bring them into the building themselves.
Sure, there's exceptions, but that will be the exception.
Exactly.
Statistic around how many people have mobile phones, how many people, own a computer, have access to one, or know how to operate, to join the internet or all of those pieces. But I think that we need to stop assuming. And people, they ask for that because they don't use the internet. No, they ask that because more likely they just don't know what else to say.
Exactly.
I need some help. I'd really like some advice, is what they are really looking for, but we don't say it like this. We say, hey,
can you send, and they probably say like, can you send me some information?
Right, exactly.
Sure. What's your email address? I'd be happy to send you a link to our website, or we can even send, if they have specific questions, you can send them links to the specific pages on your website if you want to, right? Like we have the ability to do all of those things. The one other thing that I think has helped us adopt this is that we have also put all of our pricing on our websites, not for the ancillaries and not for levels of care, because that just takes us down a whole rabbit hole. But as far as our apartment pricing, the unit pricing for every unit is on our website. So if you go to look for a 1-bedroom floor plan, it'll tell you all of the 1-bedrooms that are available and how much they're selling for. So we're not only, where this kind of helps is people aren't always, they're still calling for pricing because not everybody is savvy enough to find everything they're looking for, and they just want to talk to someone, and that's fine, right? But we don't need to have pricing sheets and update them all the time, because we, as our sales team, can pull up our own website and use our own website as a tool in the discovery process, even because we have this site map that shows you which apartments are available where. And, we're trying to, again, leverage our website from multiple angles to empower our sales team to not get stuck in, again, the old ways of well, here's this sheet, but, oh, sorry, when you came in and toured, things have changed. It's always live and it's always accurate on the website because it's connected to our financial software, right? We spent time really trying to integrate everything to make it seamless. But I know that not everyone has adopted that price transparency model. I think that it's been really good for us. We implemented part of it halfway through last year, and we put everything on there this year. And I'll be honest, we did see leads drop at one of our communities, but you start to think, well, maybe those were the leads we didn't want to spend our time on anyway. You don't necessarily know why they dropped off, but
exactly. And you look at conversion metrics. You have the same thing with only pushing sales qualified, quote unquote. That doesn't mean moving qualified, but those that want to talk to somebody into the CRM, not hey, they were on the website and we'll push them over. And now we're going to try to, I didn't want a phone call.
Yep.
Right. So yeah, the total number maybe being pushed in is less, but your conversion should be higher.
The conversions are higher, and then it's better use of sales team time, right?
Right. I mean, we have to spend so much time, and we're happy to do it with each family. But if we're talking statistically 10 hours, 8 to 10 hours of sales time, not the time that, and we all, we're spending about 3 hours of sales time daily, just that, right? I mean, you can't, how do you work 1,000 leads? You don't.
And some of our databases are so full that, again, it can be a scary proposition to say, like, we're going to eliminate collateral and we're going to just put it all out there, availability and pricing. And, you're like, oof, well, we're really showing our cards, right? Like that leaves us really vulnerable and but at the same time, I feel like it's really helped us hone in on, again, what's most important. And, I don't know about you, Julie, but I was shopping online for a car recently, and there was a very specific car that I wanted. And I went on the sites that were transparent about the pricing on the car, not the ones that said, please call for more information. Those ones I just left. I'm not even going to waste my time. I want to tell me right up front, what is the cost of this car so I compare it to the other, I want to see it. If you're not going to give me the information, I'm not even going to inquire. And I wonder, as time progresses, and again, I'm only speaking for myself, but I'd like to think I'm not alone. And that as more of us have that mentality that well, if it's not there, then I'm not even why should I call? If they're not willing to tell me online, then.
Well, just like a car, which of course this is more even emotional than a car, but when you're searching for something, you're shopping for senior living, assisted living, it's going to cost, generally speaking, in this ballpark, or the car you want, or if I were that, it's going to be about $30,000, maybe 31 here, 32, 30, right? And you're like, okay, so that's the ballpark. And wherever you choose to buy it, maybe some, was emotional, or they were nicer, there was quick response. And certainly when people are maybe searching for a car, they're a little bit more in the action stage than many of us, many of our customers with senior living.
You're absolutely right.
My car still works fine. I was just, I had squeaky brakes. So I thought, right. So the transparency is another conversation for another podcast, but that price transparency is something that I'm on your vote on your team with that, because it costs what it costs. And if it does dissuade someone, like it's $5,000, I don't have $5,000 a month, respectfully, then we're self-selecting out. And then the leads, the prospects that are coming into the CRM have not necessarily moving, or not necessarily qualified in all areas, but more likely to have that transparency, more likely to maybe not, for those who just simply, there's loads of things, if I'm looking up, gosh, I didn't know that was that much, or I don't have that. Right.
Well, and I think part of the responsibility that we have, and this is something that, as again, a work in progress for Claiborne is, as we're trying to mimic some of the multifamily traits on our website, what we're doing a bad job of, can I just admit that I've just said I'm doing a bad job? I'm thinking about it. So at least that means I'm being proactive, but we're not building our value. Like people, and this is the problem across the board, I think we've always had, is when you say that an assisted living apartment is $3,500 a month for a 1-bedroom, for 350 square feet, kitchenette, whatever, right? And you don't add the rest of the value in, like 3 meals a day, care available 24/7, concierge, whatever. If you're not adding back in the value with those statistics, you're not making a good argument for yourself. Or if you don't have that, and you also don't try to help people understand how to pay for senior living, right? Like somebody says, well, I don't have $3,500 a month in income, but anyone who's in sales and senior living knows that most people, do you have a house, right? We have a whole list of different assets that we will run through, but that doesn't come to other people's mind right away. So part of our job is to educate them on that. And so with the price transparency comes this, I think, additional responsibility for us to build our value. Because I think that we can potentially lose people because they will self-disqualify before they fully understand what we're selling, if that, about what that rate really includes. But I think that's a problem that we have in senior living anyway, right? Like we have trouble building value, which is why we hand out brochures with about 25 different things in there, right? Because we're trying really hard, but we're not personalizing it. So, but yeah, like you said, price transparency is like a whole other podcast.
It is. And I would definitely want to do that. But for just one last thing before I know you've got to jump on a plane, I think, is that kind of tying it back to what you said about learning and growing, and we're doing this. We're going to go down this road, and will there be tweaks? And sure, I'm sure. Same with what you just mentioned. It's like a price transparency. What are why do we do it? And you know what? Here's what we're finding. So we're going to tweak it. Or this is the pros. This is the maybe the cons, pros, cons, whatever. And making just continue, because I think we don't just make one decision and that's it. I mean, we continue to decide. We continue to decide to show up. We continue to decide to, and just keep an open mind of information coming at us, and the feedback and the input, and you can decide to keep going and tweak something, right? As long as you give yourself permission to change, permission to.
Well, I think that you just hit on it, is permission to change. And, again, I feel I have the luxury of in the organization that I'm part of, there's not only permission, but there is a drive to try new things. And the understanding from the ownership and the leadership that not everything's going to work. We need to, but if we're paying attention, right, and we're listening to the feedback and we're pivoting when appropriate,
right?
Failure is okay. Like, failure just means you learn something and you're going to grow and try something new, better, different. But we go in with our eyes open, thinking, like, especially with this, like right now, so far so good, but maybe in 6 months, we'll get some feedback, and enough feedback that we need rate sheets, and we'll have to have a discussion about what that looks like again. Sure. So far, I'm very pleasantly surprised that we're not getting a lot of pushback. But, and I hope to continue that. I hope that, again, the value on the website, the value of a website, one that's built out specifically with this in mind, helps our teams really feel confident in their ability to sell without having that crutch.
Well, Brooke, thank you so much for talking with me today and sharing your expertise, your innovation, being a pioneer.
Well, thanks so much for having me. It was fun to talk about it.
So grateful. If someone wanted to maybe pick your brain a little bit, what's a great way to reach you?
Well, you can catch me on LinkedIn, but you can also email me. My email address is super long, but it's bsaxonspencer@theclaiborne.com. But yeah, I'd love to connect. Talk about this stuff all day, as I'm sure you could, Julie.
Well, thank you again for your time, expertise, and heart for what you do. For any of you that want to know a little bit more about what Brooke's doing, please reach out to her to learn a little bit more about what we're doing at Grow Your Occupancy. You can reach out to me, Julie, at Grow Your Occupancy, launching Occupancy Coach this month. Super excited about that. So check that out, and we will talk to you very soon. Thank you all for listening. Bye, Brooke.